After hearing Bhagavad Gita from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna accepted Krishna as Param Brahman, the Supreme Brahman. Every living being is Brahman, but the Supreme living being or the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Brahman. Param Dhama means that he is the supreme rest or abode of everything. Pavitram means he is pure, untainted by material contamination. Purusham means that he is the supreme enjoyer. Divyam, transcendental. Adi Devam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ajam, the unborn. And Vibhum, the greatest, the all-pervading. Now one may think that because Krishna was the friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all this by way of flattery. But Arjuna, just to derive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of Bhagavad Gita, substantiates these phrases in the next verse when he says that Krishna is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead not only by himself but by authorities like the sage Narada, Ashita, Deva, Vyasdev and so on. These are great personalities who distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is accepted by the Acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna that he accepts whatever he says to be completely perfect. Sarvam idam ratam manya. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says that the personality of Lord is very difficult to understand and that he cannot be known even by the great demigods. This means that the Lord cannot even be known by personalities greater than human beings. So how can a human being understand Śrī Kṛṣṇa without becoming his devotee? Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At least, theoretically, according to the statements of Bhagavad Gita or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita, we should therefore at least theoretically accept Śrī Kṛṣṇa as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it is a great mystery. Just what is the Bhagavad Gita? The purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the knee signs of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna was also in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Śrī Kṛṣṇa, and subsequently his Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Out of so many living beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, and they are put into the awkward position and so on. Unless one is awakened to the position of questioning his suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering but rather wants to make a solution to all sufferings, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when the sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jigyasa. Every activity in the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the Absolute. Therefore, those who begin to question that why they are suffering or where they come from and where they shall go after death are proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere student should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna. Lord Krishna descends specially to reestablish the real purpose of life. When man forgets that purpose, even then, out of many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position, and for him this Bhagavad Gita is spoken. Actually, we are all followed by the tiger of knee signs. But the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. Being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance, but Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life, so that the Lord could explain them for the benefits of future generation of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. The subject of Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehensions of 5 basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of living entities, jivas. There is Ishvara, which means controller, and there are jivas, the living entities, which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled, but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad-gītā, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, the supreme controller, and the Jivas, the controlled living beings, Prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of the whole universe or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad-gītā, we must learn what God is working eternally. Therefore, Prakriti is eternal. It is not false. The Lord refers to this as my Prakriti. This material nature is separated energy of the Supreme Lord. And similarly, the living entities are also the energy of the Supreme Lord. But they are not separated. They are eternally related. So the Lord and living entity, material nature, and the time are all interrelated and are all eternal. However, the other item, karma, is not eternal. The effect of karma may be very old indeed. We are suffering or enjoying the result of our activities from time immemorial. What we can change the result of our karma or our activity, and this change depends on the perfection of our knowledge. We are engaged in various activities. Undoubtedly, we do not know what sort of activities we should adopt to gain a relief from the actions and reactions of all these activities. But this is also explained in the Bhagavad-gītā. The position of Ishvara is that of supreme consciousness. The jivas are the living entities, being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, are also conscious. Both the living entity and the material nature are explained as Prakriti, the nature, the energy of the Supreme Lord. But one of the two, the jivas, is conscious. The other Prakriti is not conscious. This is the difference. That is the difference. Therefore, the jiva Prakriti is called superior because the jiva has consciousness, which is similar to the Lord's. The Lord's is supreme consciousness, however, and one should not claim that the jiva, the living entity, is also supreme conscious. The living being cannot be supremely conscious at any stage of his perfection, and the theory that he can be so is a misleading theory. Conscious he may be, but he is not perfectly or supremely conscious. The distinction between the jiva and the Ishvara will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. The Lord is Kshetra Jnana, conscious as is the living being. But the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all bodies because he lives in the heart of every living being. He is conscious of the psychic movements of the particular jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as the controller, and that he is giving direction for the living entity to act as he desires. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determination to act in a certain way, and then he is entangled in the acts and reaction of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body, as we put on and take off old clothes. As the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. These activities can be changed when the living being is in the mode of goodness, in sanity, and understands which sort of activities he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore, we stated that of the 5 items, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, time, and karma, 4 are eternal, always, whereas karma is not eternal. The supreme conscious Ishvara is similar to the living entity in this way. Both the consciousness of the Lord and that of living entity are transcendental. It is not that consciousness is generated by association of matter. That is mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness develops under certain circumstances of material combination is not accepted in the Bhagavad-gītā. Consciousness may be pervertedly reflected by the covering of material circumstances, just as light reflected through colored glass may appear to be certain color, but the consciousness of the Lord is not material affected. Lord Krishna says, Maya Dayakshena Prakritiha. When he descends into the material universes, His consciousness is not materially affected. If he were so affected, he would be unfit to speak on transcendental matters as he does in the Bhagavad-gītā. One cannot say anything about the transcendental world without being free from materially contaminated consciousness. So the Lord is not materially contaminated. Our consciousness at the present moment, however, is materially contaminated. The Bhagavad-gītā teaches that we have to purify that materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be dovetailed to the will of Ishvara, and that will make us happy. It is not that we have to cease all activities, rather our activities are to be purified, and purified activities are called bhakti. Activities in bhakti appear to be like ordinary activities, but they are not contaminated. An ignorant person may see that a devotee is acting or working like an ordinary man, but such a person with a poor fund of knowledge does not know the activities of the devotee or of the Lord are not contaminated by the impure consciousness or matter. They are transcendental to the three modes of nature. We should know, however, that at this point our consciousness is contaminated. When we are materially contaminated, we are called conditioned. All false consciousness is exhibited under the impression that I am a product of material nature. That is called false ego. One who is absorbed in the thought of bodily conception cannot understand his situation. Bhagavad Gita was spoken to liberate one from bodily conception of life, and Arjuna put himself in the position in order to receive this information from the Lord. One must become free from the bodily conception of life. That is the preliminary activity for the transcendentalist. One who wants to become free, who wants to become liberated, must first of all learn that he is not this material body. Mukti or liberation means freedom from the material consciousness. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, also the definition of liberation is given. Mukti means liberation from the contaminated consciousness of this material world and situation in pure consciousness. All the instructions of Bhagavad Gita are intended to awaken this pure consciousness, and therefore we find at the last stage of Gita's instruction that Krishna is asking Arjuna whether he is now in purified consciousness. Purified consciousness means acting in accordance with the instruction of the Lord. That is the whole sum and substance of purified consciousness. Consciousness is already there because we are part and parcel of the Lord. But for us, there is the affinity of being affected by the inferior modes. But the Lord, being the Supreme, is never affected. That is the difference between the Supreme Lord and the conditioned souls. What is this consciousness? This consciousness is I am. And what I am? In contaminated consciousness, I am means I am the Lord of all I survey. I am the enjoyer. The world revolves because every living being thinks that he is the Lord and creator of the material world. Material consciousness has two psychic divisions. One is that I am the creator, and the other is that I am the enjoyer. But actually, the Supreme Lord is both the creator and the enjoyer. And the living entity, being part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, is neither the creator nor the enjoyer, but a cooperator. He is the created and the enjoyed. For instance, a part of a machine cooperates with the whole machine. A part of the body cooperates with the whole body. Hands, feet, eyes, legs, and so on. All the other parts of the body, but they are not actually the enjoyers. The stomach is the enjoyer. The legs move and the hands supply food. The teeth chew, and all parts of the body are engaged in satisfying the stomach, because the stomach is the principal factor that nourishes the body organization. Therefore, everything is given to the stomach. One nourishes the tree by watering its root, and one nourishes the body by feeding the stomach. For if the body is to be kept in a healthy state, then the parts of the body must be cooperate to feed the stomach. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the enjoyer and the creator, and we as subordinate living beings are meant to cooperate to satisfy him. This cooperation will actually help us, just as a food taken by the stomach will help all other parts of the body. If the fingers of the hand think that they should take the food themselves instead of giving it to the stomach, then they will be frustrated. The central figure of creation and of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, and the living entities are cooperators. By cooperation, they enjoy. The relation is also like that of the master and the servant. If the master is fully satisfied, then the servant is satisfied. Similarly, the Supreme Lord should be satisfied, although the tendency to become the creator and the tendency to enjoy the material world are there also in the living entity, because these tendencies are there in the Supreme Lord, who has created the manifested cosmic world. We shall find therefore in this Bhagavad Gita that the complete whole is comprised of the Supreme Controller, the controlled living beings, the cosmic manifestation, the eternal time and karma, our activities. And all of these are explained in this text. All of these taken completely from the complete whole, and the complete whole is called the Supreme Absolute Truth. The complete whole and the complete absolute truth are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Śrī Kṛṣṇa. All manifestation are due to his different energies. He is the complete whole. It is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita that impersonal Brahman is also subordinate to the complete Brahman, is more explicitly explained in the Brahma Sutra to be like the rays of the sunshine. The impersonal Brahman is the shining ray of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Impersonal Brahman is incomplete realization of the absolute whole, and so also in the conception of Paramatma in the 12th chapter there is shall be seen that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Purushottama, is above both the impersonal Brahman and the partial realization of his Paramatma. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Sat, Chit and Anand Vigraha. The Brahma Samhita begins in this way: Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishna Sajjidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govindaha Sarvakarana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is the primal cause, and he is the very form of eternal being. Knowledge and bliss. Impersonal Brahman realization is the realization of his Sat being feature, Sat feature. Paramatma realization is the realization of the Chit feature, eternal knowledge. But the realization of the personality of Godhead Krishna is the realization of all the transcendental features, Sat, Chit and Anand, being knowledge, bliss, complete Vigraha form. People with less intelligence consider the supreme truth to be impersonal, but he is transcendental person, and this is confirmed in all Vedic literatures. Nityo Nityanam Chetanam, as we are all individual living beings and have our individuality. Supreme absolute truth is also in the ultimate issue. Person and the realization of the personality of Godhead is the realization of all the transcendental features. The complete whole is not formless. If he is formless or he is less than other thing, then he cannot to be complete whole. The complete whole must have everything within our experience and beyond our experience. Otherwise, it cannot be complete. The complete whole personality of Godhead has immense potencies. How Krishna is acting in different potencies is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. This phenomenal world or material world in which we are placed is also complete in itself, because the 24 elements of which this material universe is a temporary manifestation according to Sankhya philosophy are completely adjusted to produce complete resources which are necessary for the maintenance and subsistence of this universe. There is nothing extraneous, nor is there anything needed. This manifestation has its own time fixed by the energy of the Supreme Whole. And when its time is complete, this temporary manifestation will be annihilated by the complete arrangement of the complete. There is complete facility for the small complete units, namely the living entities, to realize the complete, and all sorts of incompleteness are experienced due to the incomplete knowledge of the complete. Bhagavad Gita contains the complete knowledge of Vedic wisdom. All Vedic knowledge is infallible, and Hindus accept Vedic knowledge to be complete and infallible. For example, cow dung is the stool of an animal, and according to Smriti or Vedic injunction, if one touches the stool, Anji. For example, cow dung is the stool of an animal, and according to Smriti or Vedic injunction, if one touches the stool of an element, he has to take a bath to purify himself. But in the Vedic scriptures, cow dung is considered to be the purifying agent. One might consider this to be to be contradictory, but it is accepted because it is a Vedic injunction, and indeed by accepting this, one will not commit a mistake. Subsequently, it has been proved by modern science that cow dung contains all antiseptic properties. So Vedic knowledge is complete because it is above all doubts and mistakes. And Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all the Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is not a question of research. Our research work is imperfect because we are researching things with imperfect senses. We have to accept perfect knowledge, which comes down as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita by the Parampara disciplic succession. We have to receive knowledge from the proper source in disciplic succession, beginning with the supreme spiritual master, the Lord himself, and handed down to a succession of spiritual masters. Arjuna, the students who took lessons from the Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, accepts everything that he says without contradicting him. One is not allowed to accept one portion of Bhagavad Gita and not another. No, we must accept Bhagavad Gita without interpretation, without deletion, and without our own whimsical participation in the matter. The Gita should be taken as the most perfect presentation of Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is received from transcendental sources, and the first words were spoken by the Lord Himself. The words spoken by the Lords are different from words spoken by a person of the mundane world who is infected with four defects. The mundaner is sure to commit mistakes. A mundane he commits four mistakes. He is imperfect. Firstly, he is sure to commit mistakes. Secondly, he is invariably illusioned. Third is he has the tendency to cheat others, and the fourth one is he is limited by imperfect senses. With these four imperfections, one cannot deliver perfect information of all pervading knowledge. Vedic knowledge is not imparted by such defective living entities. It was imparted unto the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, and Brahma in his turn disseminated this knowledge to his son and disciples as he originally received it from the Lord. The Lord is Purnam, all perfect, and there is no possibility of his becoming subjected to the laws of material nature. One should therefore be intelligent enough to know that the Lord is the only proprietor of anything in the universe, and that he is the original creator, the creator of Brahma. In the 11th chapter of the Lord is addressed as Prapti Tamaha, because Brahma is addressed as Pitamaha, the grandfather, and he is the creator of the grandfather. So no one should claim to be the proprietor of anything. One should accept only things which are set aside for him by the Lord as his quota for his maintenance. There are many examples given of how we are to utilize those things which are set aside for us to be by the Lord. This is also explained in the Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning, Arjuna decided that he should not fight the battlefield of Kurukshetra. This was his own decision. Arjuna told the Lord that it was not possible for him to enjoy the kingdom after killing his own kinsman. This decision was based on the body because he was thinking that the body was himself and that his bodily relations are expansion, where his brothers, nephews, brother-in-laws, grandfathers, and so on. He was thinking in this way to satisfy his bodily demands. Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord just to change this view. And at the end, Arjuna decides to fight under the direction of the Lord when he says, Karishye vachanam tattva. Karishye vachanam tava. I shall act according to the word, to thy word. In this world, man is not meant to toil like hogs. He must be intelligent to realize the importance of human life and refuse to act like an ordinary animal. A human being should realize the aim of his life, and this direction is given in all Vedic literatures, and the essence of is given in Bhagavad Gita. Vedic literature is meant for human beings, not for animals. Animals can kill others, living animals, and there is no question of sin on their part. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste, he must be responsible for breaking the laws of nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly explained that there are three kind of activities according to the different modes of nature: the activities of goodness, of passion, and of ignorance. Similarly, there are three kind of eatables in goodness, passion, and ignorance. All of this is clearly described, and if we properly utilize the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, then our whole life will become purified, and ultimately we will be able to reach the destination which is beyond this material sky. That destination is called the Sanatan sky, the eternal spiritual sky. In this material world, we find that everything is temporary. It comes into being, stays for some time, produces some byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. That is the law of this material world. Whether we use as an example of this body or a piece of fruit or anything, but beyond this temporary world, There is another world of which we have information. This world consists of another nature which is Sanatana, eternal. Jeev is also described as Sanatana, eternal. And the Lord is also described as Sanatana. In the 11th chapter, we have an intimate relationship with the Lord. And because we are also qualitatively one, Sanatana Dharma or sky, Sanatana, Supreme Personality of Supreme God, and the Sanatana living beings, the whole purpose of Bhagavad-gītā is to revive our Sanatana occupation or Sanatana Dharma, which is the eternal occupation of the living entity. We are temporarily engaged in different activities, but all of these activities can be purified when we give up all these temporary activities and take up the activities which are prescribed by the Supreme Lord, that is called our pure life. The Supreme Lord and his transcendental abode are both Sanatana, as are the living entities, and the combined association of the Supreme Lord and the living entity in the Sanatana abode is the perfection of human life. And the Lord is very kind to the living entity because they are his son. Lord Krishna declares in the Bhagavad-gītā, Sarve Yonishu Aham Bij Pradaha Pita. I am the father of all. Of course, there are all type of living entities according to the various karmas, but here the Lord claims that he is the father of all of them. Therefore, the Lord descends to reclaim all of these fallen conditioned souls, call them back to the eternal Sanatan eternal sky, so that the Sanatan living
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.